the reason.
I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm evading your question. So I attended certain protests that occurred in heavily white suburban areas,
and
guess who the major
trans
demographic
activists as well.
Well, I think when you have the entire month of June was largely dedicated to the notion of Black trans lives, and that is
was dedicated to a number of things.
I'm not saying it's incompatibility.
Most trans people are working class.
Many, I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure that's largely correct. If you define progressivism as increased social provision to disadvantaged communities, I don't know that beliefs on the ethics or propriety of trans issues is necessarily the best indicator of how they feel, for example.
Then you would have to say the same thing about gay people.
Perhaps so. How would you characterize a person ideologically who, for example, is in favor of breaking up the banks and single-payer healthcare and free universal public college, that sort of thing, but has what you might call a bit more of a traditional take on trans lives? Not that they're actively hostile to trans, but they aren't necessarily an adherent to the dominant form of trans
a class reductionist
ideology, I guess. Okay, but
certainly not a progressive. No. If anyone legitimately believes they have any place in the left saying that they care about stuff like single-payer healthcare and better infrastructural investment, but then they're just going to leave minority groups out in the cold, no, of course they're not on the left.
I'll answer whatever question you have.
Are trans women women?
Are trans women women? If that's how they identify, then I personally, from my own personal perspective, I'd be happy to honor their requests in terms of what they would like to be perceived as by society. Sure.
So you'd humor them, but that's not the same as saying they're women. That's just saying you'd treat them like women.
If I treat you as a woman and I regard you as a woman, then in terms of your interactions with me, you're a woman. I don't really get the distinction.
Dancing around the answer doesn't make your position any more nuanced. It just takes longer for me to get at your actual idea.
Well, I mean, when you say that trans women are women, what do you mean exactly? Can you define that a little further, and then I'll tell you if I agree.
What is a woman?
I'm asking you. Clearly, it means something beyond what chromosomes you're born with.
Is that what you think a woman is?
No, not necessarily. Not in terms of.
So is Tulsi Gabbard a woman?
Is Tulsi Gabbard a woman? Yeah, I mean, she presents as a woman, sure.
Okay, wait. So you just answered with yes immediately. When I ask you if a trans woman is a woman, I hear 5 minutes of tap dancing.
This is why I asked you to define your terms rather than just kind of asking.
Well, to me, a woman would be anyone who identifies as a woman, and they would be just as much a woman as anyone who identified as one and was born with XX chromosomes.
If a woman is anybody who identifies as a woman, then I agree.
Okay. Just as much so as anyone born regardless of their chromosomes?
I mean, in terms of how society interacts with them,
I only have so many teeth of my own to pull.